Steve Harvey had hosted Family Feud for well over a decade. He had seen everything: funny answers, awkward moments, family drama that played out right there under the studio lights. But nothing in all those years could have prepared him for what was about to happen on a quiet Wednesday afternoon in April 2024. The studio was buzzing with its usual energy. Two families stood at the podiums, smiling and waving at the cameras. On one side stood the Martinez family from Houston, Texas. On the other side stood the Acaffer family from Atlanta, Georgia. Everyone expected another fun, lighthearted episode. But what was about to unfold on that stage would leave the entire studio audience in stunned silence, then tears, and then the loudest standing ovation the show had ever seen. Because one man was about to try something cruel. He was going to use the national spotlight of Family Feud to humiliate his own wife in front of millions of people. And Steve Harvey, the man who believed in family above everything, was not going to let that happen. If you believe in standing up for what's right, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You are not going to want to miss what happens next. The Acaffer family had been selected for the show 3 months earlier. The family of 5 had applied on a whim after the oldest daughter, Amara, had submitted a video application as a surprise birthday gift for her mother. The application video was warm, funny, and full of genuine love. It caught the attention of the producers immediately. At the center of the family was Gloria Acaffer, a 52-year-old Nigerian-American woman who had spent the last 28 years building a life in America from absolutely nothing. Gloria had come to the United States at the age of 24 with a single suitcase, $200, and a nursing degree from Lagos. She had worked night shifts at a hospital in Atlanta for over 2 decades, often pulling double shifts to make sure her 3 children had everything they needed. She was the kind of woman who never complained, never asked for help, and never stopped giving. Her neighbors called her Mama Glory because she was always cooking for someone, always checking on someone, always making sure everyone on her street felt cared for. Gloria's 3 children, Amara, 27, a schoolteacher, David, 24, a college graduate working in IT, and little Blessing, 16, still in high school, all adored their mother. She was their rock, their hero, and the reason they had grown up to be kind, hardworking people. But the one person who never seemed to appreciate Gloria was her husband, Kenneth. Kenneth Acaffer was 55 years old. He was a tall, loud man who liked to be the center of attention. He had a booming voice and a habit of talking over everyone, especially Gloria. To the outside world, Kenneth presented himself as a successful businessman. He wore expensive watches and tailored suits and drove a car that was far beyond what the family could comfortably afford. But behind closed doors, the truth was very different. Kenneth had not held a steady job in over 6 years. He had bounced from one failed business venture to another, each time blaming Gloria for not supporting him enough, for not believing in his vision. Meanwhile, Gloria was the one paying the mortgage, the one keeping the lights on, the one making sure the kids had food on the table and clothes on their backs. She did all of this without ever saying a negative word about her husband in public. That was who Gloria was. She believed in keeping family business private. She believed in loyalty, even when that loyalty was not returned. When the family arrived at the studio that morning, Gloria was nervous but excited. She had never been on television before. She wore a beautiful bright yellow dress that her daughter Amara had bought her for the occasion. Her hair was done, her smile was wide, and for the first time in a long time, she looked genuinely happy. She told the producers backstage that she was just grateful to be there, grateful for the experience, and grateful that her children had thought of her. Kenneth, on the other hand, had a different energy entirely. He had been making comments all morning, little digs at Gloria that the kids tried to ignore. He complained about her dress being too bright. He told her not to talk too much on camera. He said she would probably embarrass the family with her accent. The children exchanged glances but said nothing. They had learned a long time ago that arguing with their father only made things worse. The game started well enough. Steve Harvey came out with his usual warmth and humor, greeting both families and getting the crowd excited. The Acaffer family won the first round, and the energy was high. Gloria was smiling, clapping, and cheering for her children. She was having the time of her life, but as the game progressed, something uncomfortable started to happen. Kenneth began making remarks, small ones at first. When Gloria gave an answer that was not on the board, Kenneth shook his head dramatically and muttered loud enough for the microphones to pick up. "That's why I told her to let me do the talking." The audience laughed nervously, unsure if it was a joke. Steve noticed but moved on. Then came the second round. The question was simple. Name something a wife does that her husband doesn't appreciate. Gloria stepped up to the podium with a small, knowing smile. She paused for a moment and then said, "Everything." The audience erupted in laughter and applause. It was the perfect answer, delivered with perfect timing. Even Steve threw his head back and laughed. "I cannot argue with that," he said, pointing at Gloria with approval. But Kenneth did not laugh. He stood at the family podium with his arms crossed, his jaw tight. When the camera panned to him, his expression was cold. The audience noticed. A few people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The real trouble came during the third round. Steve asked the Okafor family, "Name something people say behind their spouse's back." It was Kenneth's turn to answer. He stepped up to the podium, and instead of just giving a quick answer, he turned toward Gloria and said, loud and clear with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, "Well, Steve, if I were being honest, I'd say people probably talk about how their wife let herself go. You know, gained weight, stopped trying. Isn't that right, Gloria?" The studio went dead silent. The audience gasped. Gloria's smile disappeared. She stood there, frozen, her eyes dropping to the floor. Her daughter Amara's face hardened with anger. Young Blessing looked like she was about to cry. David clenched his fists at his sides. Steve Harvey's expression changed instantly. The easygoing smile was gone. He stood there for a moment looking at Kenneth, then at Gloria, then back at Kenneth. You could see the wheels turning behind his eyes. He had hosted this show for years. He had seen family tension before, but this was something different. This was a man deliberately trying to humiliate his wife on national television. Steve took a slow breath and said very calmly, "That's an interesting answer, Kenneth. Let's see if the survey agrees with you." He turned to the board. The answer was not there. A big red X appeared on the screen with a loud buzzer. The audience let out a collective exhale. Kenneth shrugged like it didn't matter, but the damage was done. Gloria was standing at the edge of the family group, her arms wrapped around herself, her eyes glistening with tears she was trying desperately not to let fall. She was a woman who had survived immigration, poverty, double shifts, and raising 3 children almost entirely on her own. But being publicly mocked by the man she had given her life to, that was the thing that nearly broke her. The next few minutes were tense. The game continued, but the energy in the room had shifted completely. The audience was no longer laughing at the funny answers. They were watching Gloria. They were watching the way she tried to smile through the pain. They were watching her children close ranks around her, standing a little closer, touching her arm, whispering encouragement. And they were watching Kenneth, who seemed completely unbothered by what he had done. Then came the fast money round. The Okafor family had won the main game, and now it was time to play for the $20,000 prize. Kenneth immediately announced that he would go first. Nobody argued. He walked up to the podium with his chest puffed out, clearly enjoying the spotlight. He answered the 5 questions with a smug confidence, scoring 112 points. Not bad, but far from guaranteed. Now it was time for the second player. Kenneth had assumed David would go next, but before anyone could say anything, Gloria stepped forward. Quiet, steady, her yellow dress catching the light. She walked to the podium and placed her hands flat on the surface, just like she had seen hundreds of contestants do on the episodes she watched at home after her night shifts. Kenneth called out from behind the partition, "Gloria, don't mess this up." A few audience members actually booed. Steve's eyes narrowed, but he kept his composure. He walked over to Gloria and said something that the microphones barely caught, but the front row heard clearly. "Ma'am, you've got this. Don't you worry about anything except these 5 questions." Gloria nodded, and then she did something that surprised everyone. She straightened her back, lifted her chin, and smiled. Not a forced smile, not a polite smile, a real smile, the kind of smile that said, "I have survived worse than this." The audience noticed the shift. A few women in the front row started clapping softly, almost instinctively. They recognized that smile. They had worn it themselves. In that moment, something changed in the studio. The audience was no longer just watching a game show. They were watching a woman find her courage in real time. They were watching someone who had been pushed down over and over again decide, right there on national television, that she was going to stand up. Not with anger, not with drama, but with the quiet, unshakable strength that comes from years of doing the impossible every single day and never being thanked for it. 20 seconds on the clock, Steve announced. "Here we go, Gloria." "Name something you keep in your purse," Gloria answered without hesitation. "Tissues," Steve moved quickly. "Name a job that requires a uniform." "Nurse," Gloria said, her voice strong and clear. "What month do people go on the most vacations?" "July." "Name something a mother always knows." "When her child is lying," the audience laughed warmly. "Name something you do every day that you wish you didn't have to." Gloria paused for just a fraction of a second. Then she said simply, "Worry." The buzzer sounded. Steve looked at Gloria with something close to admiration. "All right, let's see how you did." He turned to the board. "You said tissues for something you keep in your purse," survey said. Number 1 answer, 42 points. The audience cheered. "Nurse for a job that requires a uniform." Number 1 answer, 35 points. Steve's eyebrows went up. 2 number 1s, all right now, Gloria. July for vacation month, number one answer, 33 points. The audience was getting louder. Steve was grinning now, a real grin, the kind he saved for moments that mattered. When her child is lying for something a mother always knows. Number one answer, 28 points. The studio erupted, 4 number one answers in a row. Steve was shaking his head in disbelief. One more answer, Gloria. You said worry for something you do every day that you wish you didn't have to. If this is number one. Steve paused and looked directly at the camera. This woman will have achieved a perfect fast money round. The studio held its breath. Survey said, number one, 38 points. Total 176 points. Combined with Kenneth's 112, the family had 288 points and the $20,000 prize. The studio exploded. The audience leaped to their feet. Gloria's children rushed out from behind the partition, all three of them wrapping their mother in the tightest hug imaginable. Amara was crying. David was crying. Blessing was sobbing into her mother's shoulder. Gloria stood in the middle of it all, tears streaming down her face, but standing tall, standing proud. Kenneth came out last, clapping slowly, trying to insert himself into the celebration. But the audience saw it, and Steve Harvey saw it. Steve walked over to the family, but instead of addressing Kenneth, he turned to Gloria. He took her hands in his and said, loud enough for every microphone and every camera to capture, Gloria. I need you to hear me. What you just did up there was not just impressive, it was historic. You got a perfect score, 5 number one answers, but that's not even the most amazing thing about you. He turned to face the audience. This woman right here has worked as a nurse for over 20 years. She came to this country by herself. She raised 3 beautiful children. She holds her family together every single day. And she did all of that while being treated like she wasn't enough. The audience went completely silent. Steve turned back to Gloria. I've been doing this show for a long time, and I have never seen someone play with that much grace under that kind of pressure. You didn't just win $20,000 today. You showed every woman watching at home that dignity is something nobody can take from you. Not a game show, not a camera, and certainly not someone who doesn't know your worth. The audience erupted into the loudest, longest standing ovation in the show's history. People were crying in the stands. The production crew had stopped working to watch. Gloria's children were holding her, all of them crying together. Even some of the Martinez family members on the other side were wiping their eyes. Kenneth stood off to the side, visibly uncomfortable. For the first time all day, he had nothing to say. What happened after the cameras stopped rolling was almost as powerful as what happened on stage. Backstage, Steve Harvey pulled Gloria aside for a private conversation that lasted nearly 20 minutes. No cameras, no microphones, just 2 people talking. Gloria later shared that Steve had told her she deserved better, that her children were a reflection of her strength, not anyone else's, that she should never let anyone dim her light. Gloria said she cried the entire time. Not from sadness, but from the relief of finally being seen. When the episode aired 6 weeks later, the response was immediate and overwhelming. The clip of Kenneth's comment and Steve's response went viral within hours. But it was Gloria's perfect fast money round that truly captured the internet's heart. Within 48 hours, the clip had been viewed over 30 million times across every major platform. Social media exploded with support for Gloria. The hashtag #StandLikeGloria trended for 3 straight days. Women from all over the world shared their own stories of being underestimated, disrespected, and overlooked by the people who were supposed to love them. Gloria's quiet strength had given them permission to speak up. Celebrities, athletes, and public figures shared the clip with messages of support. A famous talk show host called Gloria the most powerful woman on television this year. A retired Supreme Court justice shared the clip and wrote simply, "Dignity. This is what it looks like." The local news in Atlanta ran a 5-part series on Gloria's life, interviewing her patients, her neighbors, and her children. Every person they spoke to said the same thing, that Gloria had always been extraordinary, and the world was just finally catching up. Her neighbor of 18 years, a retired schoolteacher named Mrs. Patterson, told reporters, "That woman has been carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders since the day I met her. And she does it with a smile. She brings me soup when I'm sick. She checks on my grandchildren. She's the best person I have ever known, and I am glad the whole world knows it now." Amara, Gloria's oldest daughter, posted a video on social media that was viewed over 15 million times. In it, she spoke directly to the camera with tears in her eyes. "My mother has been the strongest person I have ever known my entire life. She never asked for recognition. She never asked for praise. She just showed up every single day and gave everything she had to her family. Watching the world finally see what we have always known, that she is extraordinary, is the greatest gift I have ever received." The impact on Gloria's life was profound. Her hospital in Atlanta honored her with a special recognition ceremony. They had seen the episode and realized that this quiet, hardworking nurse who had never missed a shift in 22 years was the same woman who had just made television history. Her colleagues gave her a standing ovation that lasted 5 full minutes. Gloria cried again. She said it was the first time anyone at work had ever acknowledged what she did beyond her job description. Organizations supporting women in difficult marriages reached out to Gloria. She became an unlikely spokesperson for domestic emotional abuse awareness, speaking at events and sharing her story with a gentle honesty that moved everyone who heard it. She never spoke badly about Kenneth in public. She simply shared her truth. For a long time, I thought love meant accepting whatever someone gave you, even if it hurt. I know now that love should make you feel bigger, not smaller. 3 months after the episode aired, Gloria made a quiet but life-changing decision. She filed for separation from Kenneth. Her children supported her completely. She moved into a small apartment near the hospital, decorated it with photos of her family and the bright colors she loved, and for the first time in nearly 3 decades, she started living for herself. Steve Harvey kept his connection with the Acaffer family. He invited Gloria back for a special follow-up segment 6 months after the original episode. When she walked onto the stage, she looked like a different woman. She was wearing a stunning emerald green dress. Her smile was wider than ever, and there was a lightness about her that had not been there before. The audience gave her a standing ovation before she even said a word. During the segment, Gloria shared that she had used part of her winnings to take her children on their first real family vacation to Nigeria, where they visited the village where she had grown up. She said it was the most important trip of her life because her children finally understood where their strength came from. I showed them the school I walked 2 miles to attend every day. I showed them the market where my mother sold vegetables so I could afford nursing school. I wanted them to know that our family's story did not begin with struggle. It began with courage. Steve also revealed during the segment that Gloria's episode had become the most watched Family Feud clip of all time on the show's digital platforms. It had surpassed every other viral moment in the show's history. But more importantly, the episode had inspired the show to launch a new initiative partnering with domestic abuse awareness organizations, providing resources and support information during episodes that dealt with family dynamics. Gloria's story touched people in ways that went far beyond entertainment. Teachers used her story in classrooms to talk about respect and dignity. Churches referenced her episode in sermons about the true meaning of partnership. Counselors shared her story with clients who were struggling in similar situations. Her quiet moment of triumph on a game show had become a cultural touchstone for anyone who had ever been made to feel invisible. 1 year after the episode, Gloria was invited to speak at a national nursing conference. She stood before 5,000 nurses and shared not her game show story, but her nursing story. How she had held the hands of dying patients. How she had worked through holidays and birthdays. How she had given her best to strangers every single night while going home to someone who made her feel worthless. Nursing taught me something important, she told the crowd. It taught me that every person deserves to be treated with care and compassion. I spent 22 years giving that to my patients. It took a game show to remind me that I deserved it too. The speech went viral. It was shared by nursing organizations, women's groups, and media outlets around the world. Gloria Acaffer, the quiet night shift nurse from Atlanta who never wanted attention, had become an international symbol of resilience, grace, and the power of finally knowing your own worth. Steve Harvey later said in an interview that Gloria's episode changed how he approached his show. Every person who stands at those podiums has a story, he said. Some of them are funny, some of them are heartbreaking, but every single one of them matters. Gloria taught me that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do on television is just give someone the space to be seen for who they really are. Years later, Gloria's 3 children continued to carry the lessons their mother had taught them. Amara started a mentorship program for young women from immigrant families. David created a scholarship fund for nursing students in his mother's name. And Blessing, the youngest, wrote a college application essay about her mother's perfect fast money round that helped her earn a full scholarship to Emory University. In the essay, she wrote, "My mother answered 5 questions perfectly that day. But the real perfect answer was the one she had been giving my whole life. That love, real love, never tears you down. It lifts you up." The documentary that was eventually made about Gloria's journey premiered at several film festivals and won awards for its honest portrayal of emotional resilience. Filmmakers had reached out to Gloria just 8 months after the episode aired, and she had agreed on one condition, that the documentary focus not on what happened to her, but on what she did with it. The final film featured interviews with Gloria's patients, her co-workers, her children, and dozens of women who had reached out to her after seeing the episode. Each story painted a picture of a woman whose impact extended far beyond any game show stage. One of the most powerful moments in the documentary came from a woman named Sandra, a single mother from Detroit who had been in an emotionally abusive marriage for 11 years. Sandra shared that she had watched the Family Feud episode alone in her living room and had sobbed through the entire thing. "When Steve Harvey said those words to Gloria, I felt like he was talking to me too," Sandra said. "I filed for divorce the next week. Gloria didn't just save herself that day, she saved me too." Stories like Sandra's poured in from every corner of the country, each one a testament to the ripple effect of one woman's quiet courage. Steve Harvey later revealed in his autobiography that he kept a framed photo of the moment he spoke to Gloria on stage hanging in his dressing room. He wrote that it was a reminder of why he did what he did. "Television gives you a lot of things," he wrote. "Fame, money, opportunities. But the best thing television ever gave me was the chance to tell Gloria Acaffer that she mattered. That one moment changed how I see my job, my show, and my responsibility to the people who stand on that stage." The hospital where Gloria worked eventually named their annual Nursing Excellence Award after her. The Gloria Acaffer Award for Compassionate Care was given each year to a nurse who demonstrated extraordinary dedication to patient welfare while maintaining personal integrity. Gloria attended the ceremony each year, and each year she told the same story about a girl from Lagos who came to America with a suitcase and a dream, and how the hardest part of that journey was not the work, but learning to believe she was worthy of the life she was building. Gloria still works as a nurse. She still wears bright colors. She still cooks for her neighbors. And every now and then, when someone recognizes her from the show and asks how she got every answer right, she gives the same simple response. "I've been paying attention my whole life. I just needed someone to finally ask me the right questions." The story of Gloria Acaffer and that unforgettable day on Family Feud remains one of the most powerful moments in game show history. Not because of the perfect score, though that was remarkable, but because it proved something that millions of people needed to hear: that quiet strength is still strength, that dignity cannot be taken from you, and that sometimes the person everyone underestimates is the one who changes everything. If this story touched your heart, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another story like this. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that their strength matters. And remember, your worth is not determined by how others treat you. It's determined by how you treat yourself.